Hi, I'm Isaac Feldberg with the America's SAP User Group, or ASUG, and I'm here at SAP Sapphire and ASUG Annual Conference. I'm excited to be joined today by two special guests, Jürgen Thomas from Microsoft Azure and Brian Heistand from Intel. Thank you both for being here today. Can you both, in introducing yourselves, tell me a little bit more about what you do at your organizations?
Yeah, my name is Jürgen Thomas. I'm working in Azure Core Development, to be more precise, in Azure Specialized Development Lead responsible for SAP workload on Azure.
And I'm Brian Heistand. I work with Microsoft, so I work with Jürgen quite a bit and his team and others with their M-Series products for SAP. And I also work with some of our sales organization as well to make sure they have the information they need from an SAP perspective on Azure.
Thank you. And so I've got Microsoft and I've got Intel here, and kind of all around us ambiently at SAP Sapphire is SAP, of course. And so to speak a little bit about the power of three there, what could you both tell me a little bit about that partnership and how it works, the integration between your businesses and what that's driving for customers?
Yeah, I'll start.
Yeah.
That's all right. So yeah, the partnership that Intel's had with Microsoft, goes back more than 30 years,
Yeah.
long time.
Yeah.
And then we also have partnership with SAP, and not just from a sales and product standpoint, but really a deep engineering relationship between our companies, and that, even with HANA, for example, SAP HANA, Intel was the first reference platform for SAP HANA. So that engineering relationship, I think, between all three of our companies really has continued to this day, and that's what's driving these technology improvements that deliver the performance and the scalability that some of our biggest customers need, but really across the board, all customers. In addition to those things, it drives a really nice total cost of ownership story, which I think is important for all our customers.
Yeah, I'd even argue the close engineering relationship between the three companies, also between Microsoft and Intel, is way more important than it was like 20, 25 years ago, where the usage of the Intel hardware that came through the different vendors was a normal thing. The software was operating on it. Today, the emphasis in hyperscale cloud, the emphasis is completely different, how Intel and us work together in optimizing for the use case of hyperscale cloud, where we have completely different areas to cover. Power consumption is super important, all these kinds of things that if you run millions of processes that really count. On the other side, HANA being a product, for example, that is extremely close to the hardware, that uses tremendous amounts of memory, is also something where between the three parties we need to have a very close engineering relationship to really optimize, on the one side, our virtualization layer on the Intel hardware for memory area of 32 terabyte. Like 10 years ago, nobody in the hyperscale cloud would have even imagined running a virtual machine that on a hardware with 32 terabyte and the VM representing 32 terabyte to the user or to the customer, and having 1800 CPUs. And so that requires a tremendous close relationship between Intel, us, and also SAP, providing the in-memory database platform. So that changed, so the intensity, the details in the relationship and the topics tackled became tremendously deeper and way more wider in a lot of dimensions.
Thank you both. Brian, is there anything you'd add?
Yeah, I would totally agree with what Jürgen said, and I would add that the customers' requirements they're just getting bigger and bigger.
Yep.
More and more, but they also need not just the bigger systems and the higher performance, but they need resilience as well, and reliable systems, reliability. And as customers are moving to cloud and moving to Microsoft Azure, they need to be able to trust that that is the best place for their workload to land. And I think this partnership really delivers that, because we're working hand in hand together to make sure that Azure is on the leading edge of SAP HANA performance.
I mean, actual example, take memory reliability. It's a difference when you have a server with half a terabyte memory or 32 terabyte of memory.
Yeah.
Reliability, the compensation of potential memory issues is way more in the foreground if you run these large servers, and so there's a lot of investment that was done by Intel in this area in order to really reliably have these large servers running. So yeah, that's a good example demonstrating that reliability, and especially with the latest generation of Intel.
Absolutely.
The Sapphire Rapids processors, that we have customers that run their HANA systems in VMs of 32 terabyte.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, these systems, the amount of memory in them, just, the number of DIMM modules that are in these systems, it's a huge number, right? So that's where, again, like Jürgen was saying, the reliability becomes a major factor, and that's a big area of investment that Intel has done with Sapphire Rapids and future generations as well, to make sure that we have that error correction capability, and the reliability is there in the platform, and the RAS features are available in the platform to to make sure that we can have the uptime that's required by our customers for their mission critical SAP workloads.
Yeah.
And to kind of just add to that as well, in terms of the real reliability, the security that you're providing for customers, these are also very broad certified instances that you're running. And Jürgen, I'm curious if you could speak a little bit to the process that Microsoft Azure goes through to ensure that customers' estates are completely covered.
Yeah, I mean, look, especially when we talk about the large VMs that we are hosting SAP systems on, M series, but also other VM series that are used for running SAP. It starts already in the early days and years ahead of Intel releasing a processor where we have a close collaboration. As we go, as the process of development continues, we are working very closely with Intel teams running SAP workload. We are working on our own hardware, with our own hardware development that we have in Azure. There's a close collaboration with Intel. And then the last steps is when we finally get hands-on on VMs and are starting to test all kinds of aspects of VMs, of the VM's capability, of the hardware underlying capability. And it's only the last step when we do all the certifications with SAP. There's years ahead. There were a lot of development efforts, but also testing efforts in these areas. So that relates to all kinds of functionalities that the silicon of Intel's coming with. Thinking about transparent memory encryption, thinking about other isolations like TDX. These things, these are not showing up surprisingly for us. These show up in the Intel processors as a long path of joint collaboration that we have with Intel, and so there are no surprises at the end of the day when these things show up, and we are at any point in time equipped then to leverage them and to get them to the customer as well.
Yeah, I think for the current gen MV3, right, the current gen in Azure, the latest generation for the memory optimized. I think our team started working on that years ago, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Exactly.
So yeah.
We collaborate on the testing and performance tuning, optimizing. It's a lot of work, but in the end, Microsoft delivers a great product. So
yeah, exactly. Based on what Intel delivers.
Absolutely. I always describe it as you're running your SAP system on Microsoft Azure with Intel inside. And that combination provides a sense of scalability and reliability and security for large mission-critical SAP estates in many respects. And Brian, before we started rolling, you were talking a little bit about these 3 pillars that kind of guide that development. I'm curious if you could lay those out for the audience in terms of these guiding principles.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so performance, resilience, and scalability, those are the 3 pillars. And Jürgen and I were just talking that, really there's a 4th, which is TCO. But if we start with performance, as we were discussing, Intel's, we're already working on the next generation and then the next generation after that as well. Building these products takes a very long time, and so this SAP workload is a very important workload to Intel, and so we're developing these platforms to be as performant as possible in cooperation with SAP and their HANA team to make sure that, like I said, that performance is there and that the HANA workload runs optimally on Intel processors. And then of course that benefits the end customer, right? Obviously. And then there's reliability. We kind of touched on that a little bit earlier. That's crucial. The scalability, I think we touched on a little bit, but really that's, SAP customers are, come in all sizes, right? So we really have to, though, we have to be able to scale up for those very large customers, though, because their data is just, it's continuing to grow, right? It doesn't stop. Years ago, well, not that long ago, the limit for HANA was 24 terabytes. I think it wasn't that long ago.
Well, it wasn't that long, 3-4 years ago, yeah.
Right,
yeah.
right.
Then,
and before that, it was quite a bit smaller.
Yeah, exactly.
So the fact that we have 32 terabytes, in a single system, in a single VM in Azure today is, it's a testament to that, all that work that goes into, to making these platforms scalable. From 2 sockets, 8 sockets, 16 sockets, all these, that's a lot of CPUs. And Jürgen, you mentioned 1,700 plus vCPUs.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
pretty incredible.
Yeah, look, when you look at the hardware, there's a lot of IP by Intel. Only want to mention cache coherency protocols and all these. Well, it's easy done on 2 sockets, on 2 pieces of silicon in a server. But as you go to 4, 8, 16, this is tremendous IP that's in such a product that is hard to get to. That is hard to put into shape and form that is commercial viable as well. And so there's a very unique position that Intel has in that space. And it certainly is now at good use with an in-memory database, with an ever-growing data volume that the application on top of the in-memory database is producing. And so that's a really unique position. Then that also leads to the TCO pillar to a degree. As there is a lot of memory, and as memory is not exactly extremely cheap, so that's where we need to work on, or where we're working already on the next generations of processors to address the total cost of ownership of such a high memory solution, and how we can make that more, how we can get keep the price a little bit in bay for those, and how memory could be used most efficiently in these kinds of things. So there's very interesting discussions here, and very interesting to see what's coming in the next few years in that space. Also, again, something we are discussing now for years about. So it's not coming as a surprise. Since a few years we are discussing in this space, and I think we are now in the next 1 or 2 years we are seeing that coming to fruition or to come to the market in a first release. So we'll see.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate you both speaking to that. Brian, do you have other thoughts there? I mean, one thing I wanted to kind of pivot this conversation into as well is to think about how a lot of this progress, which as you both mentioned has been underway for years, has been translating to customer outcomes that are very visible, very practical, and very easily demonstrated, especially for those who are building business cases in their organizations for forward progress. Can you speak a little bit to the real world outcomes here?
Yeah. Well, like Jürgen was saying, essentially we can do more with less now. So, the CPUs are becoming more performant. So each CPU can support more memory, which means larger HANA systems, essentially, which in the end it means a little, lower cost for the customer when those things come together. And so, for example, with customers, as we, there's a customer that had a very big SAP estate that moved to Azure, and they saw performance increases of 30 to 40% on many of the systems, and even up to 120% on a few of the systems, primarily their BW systems, and their analytics systems. So those are great improvements, and those deliver business value, and that all kind of ties into the TCO story too, right? So you can do more with these systems now, so you deliver more business value, and the systems themselves are the cost is kept in check, I would say. I don't know if we would say going down, but the performance is going up.
Yep.
So you get, the performance for the cost is getting much better.
Right.
So it's a great, yeah.
Well, I mean, take an actual example. How many customers did we have like 20 years ago, global customers, large companies implementing SAP, and how many of those had to split up their business suite or their NetWeaver system at a point in time in either kind of geographic limited systems, business unit limited systems, often not only because the business processes were so entirely different, but really because the hardware, the infrastructure available on premise was not sustaining that large of a load. So a lot of customers split those systems out. Now that it's all going into S/4HANA, a lot of those customers are looking at a new architecture of the business suites that they move to S/4HANA. And for many of those, we see that they are now moving more to a global instance or unifying certain business units because they know the infrastructure on Azure can handle it thanks to the progress, thanks to the large infrastructure that we have based on the Intel processors. That is then real TCO as well. As I reduce the number of SAP systems that I need to manage, that is really cost savings, dramatic cost savings actually, which also down in the second day operations when I think about operating the systems, but also when I have the problem of keeping them on the same SAP release. If I have 100 or if I have 12, 13, 15, 20 production systems that I need to keep on the same state, that's quite a challenge. And so that's also real cost savings. You can realize systems today in a size that you could not do it 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and that's helping customers as well to lower their cost of ownership tremendously.
Right, and to have the confidence to make some of these massive moves. I mean, Intel's work in helping customers scale up their capacity makes something as substantial as a HANA move possible.
Yeah, and also having the assurance that there's a way forward, even if when the business is growing, because you don't want to be on the edge and then just say, okay, well, this current generation of hardware is doing it, but and I'm on the edge of it, and then I'm waiting like, when is the next generation coming out?
Right.
I mean, not that we didn't have that in the past, but it's not a great feeling. It's not a great situation to be in. So that's where we can argue that many of, I mean, the vast majority of the customers are running today on a very solid ground, and even if they double their business volume tomorrow, there's always a way to go without now doing radical changes to the system and splitting up the system into two or something like that. So
I think that's like such a great point for us to kind of really impart, is that this continuing partnership, the progress that you're both making in your organizations, the development of Microsoft Azure, the release of the Intel 4th generation processors, is continuing to enact these efficiencies for customers. It's reducing power consumption, it's increasing confidence, it's ensuring resilience and reliability. It's giving people the building blocks
Yep.
to be able to construct an intelligent enterprise, which I think certainly we can all agree, as we're here at SAP Sapphire, as SAP plans to release new innovations that we can only dream about for a couple more days, and move us towards this AI-enabled enterprise as well. You need the fundamentals to be in place,
Yep.
and you need the systems that both of your businesses provide to be able to ensure that you can embrace those innovations readily, successfully, and effectively, to be able to extract the value from it that SAP lays forth in events like these.
Yep, absolutely.
I think, in terms of a closing note, the last thing I would ask from both of you is a top takeaway from the partnership that you have together between Intel and Microsoft Azure that you think business leaders need to keep in mind as they're making innovation choices, as they're planning out their innovation roadmap, and as they're thinking about how they structure their estates. What is something that you think should be top of mind for business leaders right now? Jürgen, I'll go to you first for that.
Well, that's a good question. I mean, certainly the focus on reliability and total cost of ownership that we are having in our relationship. Again, reliability is the thing. I mean, we want to provide our services for mission critical SAP system as reliable as possible, and it starts down on the hardware already. It starts with the silicon delivered and the logic delivered by Intel, and then the next thing that's so intensively discussed between the two companies is certainly the TCO. Not only TCO for the customer, but also TCO for us as the company running millions of processes. So every watt spent in a processor is multiplied by a huge factor. So these are that also then translates, no doubt about, into TCO for a customer. And so these are definitely the topics that are in our discussed in our relationship, where a lot of efforts go in on both sides of the relationship in the engineering. And so that is continuing. There's no holding off. That's a continuous process where we are working on getting more and more efficient and reliable. Reliability doesn't stop. There's always something where you can improve. There's always something that you can do in order to improve the TCO.
Thank you. Brian?
Yeah, I would 100% agree, and I would add to that I think customers can, when it comes to moving their SAP estate or deploying SAP in Azure, they can do that with confidence because of everything that we've talked about today, right? This partnership is really, at the end of the day, it's a benefit for the customer because all this work has gone into making a very stable, reliable, resilient platform for their customer to run their mission critical business. Again, like Jürgen was saying, reliability is crucial. So, I think you have to have those fundamentals, and we have that here with between Intel and Microsoft. And then, a couple other things to keep in mind too. AI, of course, is top of mind for everyone. Intel has an accelerator that's built into the processor called AMX. That's available in Azure as well on different VM types, right? So these capabilities are there, and that sets the foundation for what might come next, right? What workload is going to come that can take advantage of that accelerator, for example, and deliver the value there in a very cost-effective way. Same thing with security. We're always exploring security. We want that's obviously a crucial component for any enterprise customer, right? So yeah, we have memory encryption technologies and so on that we're working on with, that Intel's been working on, and we're also working on with Microsoft.
Thank you both for being here today. I'm very excited. We're just at the beginning of SAP Sapphire and ASIC Annual Conference, so there's much excitement to come in the days ahead, but I appreciate starting off my Sapphire with both of you. So thanks for taking the time.
Thanks for hosting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.